What is up, gangsters and gangsterettes? Welcome back to the show. It's your boy, Drew Heifetz, host of the Vintage and Stuff podcast, where we talk to the greatest minds in the vintage game, and we bring to you all the knowledge that you seek in the vintage realm. So, yeah, welcome. We got Joe, Champagne Room with Sinatra, known for being a member of the Faded team. But guess what? He's not anymore, and we are going to jump into that, and he's going to divulge all the reasons why he left Faded. Faded is known for having a live event, but also for probably the most successful Whatnot show of all time. Bum, bum, bum. And yeah, it's interesting why he left, but he's got a good story, good guy. We have some good chats. This episode is completely free. There is no Patreon version. We only recorded for an hour, so wanted to give it to you guys all for free, so enjoy this free episode. But if you want to learn more from all the special guests on the show, you do have to jump on the Patreon, because that's where all the real juice is, all the real meat on the bone. If you're vegan, that's where all the veggies grow big and juicy. So jump on the Patreon, link down below. It's free for a week, so you can actually get a lot of content for free. And then it's only $5 a month. It supports me. It supports my editor. It supports the mission that we are on to bring you the content you desire, to help you learn, to help you make money, to help your business run smoother. Guaranteed, the knowledge you will learn on the show you will make 100 times your money. I will guarantee you'll make 100 times your money. $5 a month. You'll make 100 times your money if you jump on this Patreon and listen to all the guests and utilize the tips and tricks that they tell you. So that's my new guarantee. You will make 100 times your money by jumping on the Patreon and listening to the full episodes of the podcast. And yeah, so that's about it. Joe, great guy. Enjoy the show. See you guys on the next one.
Vintage clothing by the rack, yeah. Just check out my Insta, how you gon' argue with that? Everything you see, I manifest. I'm an architect, I think I'ma run it back. We got vintage clothing by the rack. Just check out my Insta, how you gon' argue with that? Everything you see, I manifest. I'm an architect, I think I'll have some of that.
Joe, welcome back to the show, man. Second time on.
Honored, man. Honored. I know, we've been talking back and forth about doing this for a couple of weeks. Thanks for being patient with me, for sure.
Yeah, no, it's all good, man. Everyone's busy. It's hard to coordinate schedules. You're a busy restaurateur. You're the busiest kind of busy. A restaurateur.
Yeah, like that real crazy, never stops, unrelenting, every day's Groundhog Day type of busy.
Yeah, get in at 10 a.m. go home at like midnight or 1, right?
Yeah, I'm excited though, to get back to where I am right now, because I think for a long period of time I had lost sight of it. So we'll talk a little bit about what's happened in the last couple months.
Cool,
crazy.
Lots to cover on this episode, but the big news is that you've left operations with Faded.
I have.
So we want to know that whole story. We'll get into that a little later on the show. Want to talk about what you're going to be up to now that you've done that. Want to talk about restaurant life. Want to talk about sort of just the state of the game a little bit, and also like the state of just kind of a pulse check on the scene, but then I guess live selling in general, because I know like Faded was so heavily involved in the live selling space. So why don't we kind of kick it off there? Like, how do you see the state of the game right now?
It's more cowboy, I feel like, now than ever. And I got like a huge kind of test of this from almost a year of live streaming, which, dude, to be honest, was burning me out. Ryan's still going strong, doing it, man. Shout out to Sorta Vintage. I will give him his bones for still doing the live streaming 7 times a week or whatever he does. But
it's crazy.
Yeah, you saw prices fluctuate in a weird way that kind of I that's why I kind of started losing steam with Faded and left, but we'll get there where we got to go. But yeah, a pulse on the scene, man, is it's tough. I've seen shirts go for a quarter of what I thought they were worth, and shirts that I knew nothing about go for three times what I thought they were worth. So I think like the scene is like truly American right now, where everyone's bored and just looking for the next best thing at such a rapid rate that it's like, it looks like this, dude, you know?
Yeah,
One of the
for
cool
sure.
parts that I've seen recently, and I think Faded had a direct effect on, was the explosion in price of these Tannis Root T-shirts that have been just coming onto the scene. Um, and
That's
I
great,
love
man.
it. I love it, Drew, because I think the subject matter of like it was not the first time, but a time when an artist was the focal point of why you bought a shirt, not the band or the subject matter or, you know, the famous NASCAR guy or whatever. It was the person who designed the shirt was the reason why people were interested in it. So
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
That's awesome.
You
I
know?
mean, it's an appreciation beyond just the band, and you must have played a huge role in that, obviously with the expose. But it's
Yeah.
cool to see that people like resonate with that, and then it had a big enough impact to actually fluctuate prices. Man, that's really cool to see.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure in your time you've had instances where F as in Frank sold some stuff, maybe Carhartt or something like that. I mean, there had to have been an instrumental moment where you might have been at the forefront of selling something. I don't know if you can recall
Yeah,
anything off the top of your
yeah. I
head,
mean,
but
it's not specifically, but in the snapback days when we were selling vintage
we talked about
alongside
that. Yeah.
snapbacks, and when we were doing like putting out like these late 80s early 90s like kind of urban street styles, right, that not
Hmm.
weren't really huge then. We saw like such a boom in that, right? So it started to catch on because people were checking our site for inspiration and for price guiding and all these things. So then things start to like roll that way. And I've played with it from like a social experiment aspect too, seeing like if enough people get behind something, right? If enough of the right people get behind, you could easily manipulate the market. And we see it with like what you've done with Tannis Root is actually showcase the true artist. So like it's a proper representation of education to inadvertently bring something up in value. But you
Yeah.
have guys like the people in Thailand who are putting out bootlegs and then fake running up bids to create the hype on a certain garment too, right? So
Exactly.
there's false manipulation of that world as well that we see a
Yeah.
lot. But it's
Well,
cool
my
to see that
big
actually happened. And I imagine that wasn't your like focus. Your focus was just like, this is cool. I want to showcase this, right?
Yeah, the wild thing was I got a text from a dude who I've done business with a lot of times, and he was like, "Hey, man, like I just want you to know the reason why these shirts are as expensive is because of you and what Faded's doing." And I was like, "I'm a pretty humble person. I don't like to like be like in the even though it seems that way. I'm like an outspoken person. I kind of feel weird when someone says something like that to me. But the more the expose grew, the more I just Tannis Root shirt online. Tannis Root. Someone's posting it. Someone's looking for it. Someone wants it. And I think a lot of it too coincided with the international hype too. Like, but the problem, like you're saying, is that I have a really big problem right now. Is it's like a t-shirt hot potato almost. To like the shirt goes for value. Say it goes on auction for $1,000, Drew,
Yeah, yeah.
and then it just comes down the line of lowering back into value where it finally gets to the bottom of where it was initially or what the person bought it for.
Yeah.
So like,
Or that person that bought it for 1,000 is going to try to make a quick 200 if they can on this quick little rise, right?
yeah,
They're all hoping to make something on the rise, but then eventually someone gets stuck at the top and then it's
yeah.
back down.
It's scary too buying stuff when you're not sourcing it for how you source it for like that small type of profit margin. You know what I mean? Like you're a person that does it on a volume scale where it's like you don't get attached to these clothes. They come in, they come out. That's what they're supposed to do. Like it's not something that like you covet or whatever. And even if you do love it and you're like, shit, I should keep this, most of the time, if you get 3 times an offer what it's worth for it, you're like, all right, it has to go type of thing. You know, I think a lot of these kids are just like, they're not even buying and holding for a week or a month. They're literally buying and holding for like, they get it, post it, gone. You know what I mean? Like, and it's, I wonder how long that's going to be, that model is going to be able to kind of last for before people start to get like hip to it. You know what I mean? It's,
for sure. I mean, I think the market in general is having some fluxes. We're obviously seeing like economic issues coming into play, which means like, you know,
we got to talk about,
no matter how you look at it, the economic factors are important, because if people aren't being able to pay their bills, they're not going to spend any more money on things that they just want as a collector item. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely coming into play for like the high end pieces, but you know, we're seeing a good resurge in just regular retail. It's funny too, because the timing of this podcast is good. I put out this thing on my Instagram a couple nights ago, just kind of asking everybody's take, like, how are you guys doing? Like, what's good, what's not?
I saw that.
And, you know, quite a few people said online was down, regular online, which I think is just an oversaturation, right? So much availability.
Too many, dude. Just too many. Plus, it's the knowing now that people have that if they wait, they're probably going to get it for a cheaper price. If that makes, you know what I mean? Like before in the big pandemic days, there was no other availability besides sourcing online to get clothes. So you couldn't go to the store and hope that they had that specific like Iron Maiden tee that you wanted. It was just, if it was online, you grabbed it, you know? And if you wanted to sell it, you reposted it. Now, like, people are like, you know what? I think 500 is too expensive for that shirt. I think I'm going to try to get it. I'm on it for 350, and I'm going to just wait it out and see if I can get it for 350.
For sure.
Whereas my new models changed, Drew, is now knowing what I know about like Tannis Root and certain artists and how many quantities were printed of stuff. I'm attempting to find the shirts that there was only 4 printed, and good luck finding it at you know, you're gonna have to hunt down the dude who was in the band to try to get the shirt, because if not, it doesn't even exist in the world, period, you know?
Yeah. So now you're gonna be scouring a lot to find a little, but you'll probably, with the knowledge, you know, be able to grab something still expensive, but then somebody else won't know what you know about said garment potentially, right?
Yeah. I feel like the true vintage scene's already like hip to this. That's like their model almost, is, you know, because you've sold a ton of true vintage. It's all about the details, the specific buttons that were done in this specific time era or whatever is what people look for in that said industry. So it's I don't know if t-shirts can get there, but it would be cool, you know.
Well, I think there's always been a level of that beyond my knowledge, and you're right with this vintage in general. It is a knowledge-based business. The people who hold the most knowledge, who can retain, learn the most, will do the best, because you will find something that people pass on or people don't know about that you can make a buck on. That's the game. It's always find something that people don't know about that you do that you're going to make money on, right?
Yeah.
So, and that knowledge, it can't be read there's no book. Like, yeah, there's lots of books you could read, but like, it's just an accumulation of so much knowledge over time. And with the t-shirts, even during the pandemic, like when this whole thing started, people were going like, well, that tag on this shirt is better and this and that. And then if it was like the one with the back hip, but the back hip was this color, or you're and you're like, damn, you guys fucking like, I thought I had the shirt, but I guess I didn't. And it's a lot of nuance, right?
Yeah, it is. But I think too, like, if you're going to take a pulse side note in the scene, we have to continually ingrain secondhand into fashion itself. Fashion has to continue to become second, not because it's valuable or it's really cool, but because people actually care about the sustainability factor, and you're just shopping at secondhand stores instead of Zara or instead of these other ones. Because if it becomes like just about making money, it's going to turn into fucking Bitcoin. And then you all saw dips, you know what I mean? Or not Bitcoin. What's the one that the fucking photos of shit that people were
Oh,
buying.
NFTs, yeah,
NFTs. Yeah, if you want to become NFT, I forgot even what the thing was called. But if you want to call it, if you want to turn into
yeah.
NFTs, vintage could turn into NFTs if it becomes solely about financial profit, and that's been the message. Now, for someone like you who owns a retail store, it's a means to feed your family, you know what I mean? But if you're like a collector and all of a sudden you're like, I'm going to be a vintage seller and I'm going to quit my job and do everything, it's like you got to be prepared to do the dirty work like you do. You have to be prepared to dive into a bin, pick shit out of the trash, hit up granny, take 60,000 appointments. You know, you don't have a 9 to 5 schedule. You don't work 40 hours a week. You work, I mean, can you attest to this, Drew? You work 90 hours a week. You work
Oh yeah.
every
now,
hour.
I'm in the middle of building a store. Fuck, man. It's like my next month is going to be hectic, and I'm already like mentally preparing myself for it. You know,
Is that
just
in
like
Vancouver or Toronto?
no,
Where is that?
we're opening another one in Vancouver. We're opening another one after that in Nanaimo, which is going to be like a thrift. See, that's the thing too. Like I'm opening like like I have my vintage store, which is like pretty broad spectrum vintage, like well-rounded, I say. And nowadays, it used to be like my vintage store was like most vintage stores, but now the well-rounded vintage stores are more rare than the hype beast vintage stores, right? There's
I
more
love
hype
it, dude.
beast vintage stores. So I'm like, well, now I have a marketing play. I'm like, you can come in my store and actually buy an outfit versus like just a t-shirt or a pair of sneakers. So and we're doing well because of that, I think. So we have like, we still sell high-end stuff. Like if like we have a percentage of like curated cool pieces, then we have like wearable everyday shit. But I'm opening another one in Vancouver, and I'm opening like a thrift store. And like you're saying, like the people who've gone really big in this business have done like mid-level product, right? Mid-range, mid-level product. They're the ones who've been able to have 20 stores and make empires. There's not a lot of people making an empire off of bangers, right? Like you can do well, but it's a lot harder, I would say.
It's also too, dude, I'm so inspired by this well-rounded. I did not know that you were entering into all these different things. It's also about, it's not seeing where it is right now, it's seeing where it's going. And that's the true, those are the truly successful people. And that's, I mean, when we talk about food later and drinks, that's where I'll go with that. But it's not about, and that's where I am with vintage. I don't care about the here and now, the price of the shirt. I don't even care if the shirt's going to be higher value. I care about the idea of where is vintage fashion going and what can it get to. And I still think, I really do, dude. Everyone wants to say like, oh, the values are down. We're still right here, dude. There's so much more. Until I see on Rodeo Drive 6 vintage stores, it's not, you know what I mean? It's not where it needs to be. Well, not even Rodeo Drive. In every shopping mall in America, if there's not a vintage store, vintage isn't where it needs to be yet. That's what people need to understand.
There will be. It's coming. It's moving that way. Another, I see the trends moving that way, and that's kind of our business. I'll just run through this quickly, but our new thing is like we're going to be opening retail. We see the future in like brick and mortar retail. Online is we're still going to continue. It's doing okay, but like we said earlier in the episode, the saturation is so high with online. Every kid, every Depop, there's 10 huge resale platforms that are all loaded with shit. So it's really hard to like play that game of like regular product online.
Mm-hmm.
So we're opening retail, and we want to grow like a really we want to just have a really like good brand of retail stores that is focused on customer service, focused on the right product, the good product that people want at the time, but like well-rounded in the way that you can come in, get an outfit, and we have what people want. And also couple that with like sort of a main line of stores and then like a thrift line of stores where we can like funnel shit through so that if it doesn't move here, it goes here, and we get rid of it quick enough and easy.
You know what's amazing too, though, is you're almost taking the vintage stylist angle, because a lot of people, like, I feel like people, like, even like I always use my father or like my mother would understand vintage more if they knew where to place vintage in their outfit or their daily life. So the idea of you guys are almost offering education in a weird way where, like, you're building an outfit. You're showing them how they can utilize this jacket, maybe with stuff that they're wearing that isn't vintage either, to up their game, their fashion game in specific ways. So it's like
totally, and fashion follows vintage. So if you watch it, you can play that game and just kind of like know what's coming up next for the big fashion houses, and then have those trends available secondhand, which is solving the problem, right? And I got to give shout out to Amy on this episode. We partnered with a friend of mine, Amy, who, I'll touch on this quickly. She owned a company.
Is she Australian?
She's Australian, yeah.
Cool.
She's Australian.
The accent helps the cool factor, man.
Velvet Underground, yeah. And we brought her in to kind of complement our weaknesses, right? And she came to us actually because she was thinking the same thing, like we complement her weaknesses. So I think that's an important factor to understand is like, not everyone can be good at everything. Amy's really good at customer service. She's really good at building teams of people. She's really good at like merchandising product, and she's going to be like sort of running like head of retail. We're going to be on supply and marketing, and we kind of have set up some roles for the company so far, me, Jesse, and her. And, I think, people out there listening to this, it's like, bring people on that complement your weaknesses so that you can get to the goals you want. Don't think you can get good at everything, and you can try and you might get okay at everything, but it's also important to be able to identify that and like bring the right people on your team,
Dude, there's so many segues right now into where I'm at. Like, I felt that way about, like, we can even talk about Faded now because that's a perfect segue.
Yeah,
the idea of, I opened a restaurant last year, and that was a lot of my focus. And Faded, not that Faded was my focus, but I kind of felt out of love with it because I was being utilized less and less for like the design and the idea aspect of how to strengthen the brand and more just a host that auctions stuff off, which, don't get me wrong, we built a fun community. I had a great time with it, but it was super burning me out, dude. And it was like, when I stopped enjoying it, that's when I was like, okay, I think it's time for me to leave. One of the hardest things ever. Me and these three other guys started this company. Like, I had the first phone call with Bowie Kochmira, who now isn't in the company. Sam's not in the company either, but we had that phone call, and that was like the first inception. We got someone going crazy.
Someone came in the door, but yeah, sorry. No, we're good.
But I had that phone call with him. So, I sat long and hard, and I talked to Chloe, and I'm like, Chloe, I'm not happy anymore with this. Like, and she saw it. Like, she saw just almost like the air being let out of me on a daily basis. Like, the restaurant was running me.
Sorry to segue, but who were the three people you partnered with in the beginning? Bowie.
So the four people it was Sam, Bowie Kochner, Ryan Disorder Vintage, and Longston. He lives in Providence. He's like the boots on the ground guy. But and then it turned in for the last probably 6 months, 7 months. It was just the three of us. But it was just I have nothing negative to say about those guys. They work hard for their vision or whatever. It just, my vision wasn't that anymore. I saw more of Faded as a brand that kind of harnessed the designers, the artistic, and the educational aspects of it, as opposed to just this fast rate hype machine that I kind of saw it turning into, which is cool. I mean, we doubled attendance Faded 2
nice.
From Faded 1. So we were obviously doing something correctly. It just I wasn't passionate about it, dude. And I was a musician for a while. I played in bands. And as soon as I saw the other people weren't as excited about the idea as me, that's when, I had to leave. So I've left things behind, and I feel like everyone should leave things behind that they're just not progressing in. If I'm not challenged or feeling you know, like this idea is progressive. Why the fuck? Why are we here? You know,
Yeah. So
that was
explain
my
that a
views
little
on
bit
it.
deeper. Like
Yeah.
what were the ideas that you were bringing to the table that weren't in line with the other team?
Well, I wanted to put more emphasis on the gallery aspect of it too and stuff, and I also just I I wanted to expand the amount of events too, which I think they still have some ideas of doing it, but it just it we weren't approaching it in a way that I liked. You know, it was rapid fire. It was more emphasis on whatnot and the live selling and all that stuff, which I think was like a means to generate for the business and stuff, but it just didn't, you know, I was it was we were also creating a scene in that world that I really didn't like. It was some of the if you watch that show, some of the comments said are not really too too favorable sometimes. So it's, you know, it became a rat race to be the best auction house, and I didn't even, not that I didn't enjoy it while it was there, but we weren't accepted as an auction house. We
Yeah,
turned into
totally.
that, you know what I mean?
Totally.
So the company went in an angle, in a direction that I just didn't really want to be a part of. What I wanted to do was more like art direction across the U.S., like show the importance of why fashion and art are like one and the same. It doesn't always have to just strictly be vintage, but it's the influence of old designs and how it translates to today. Like, for instance, one that always comes to mind is the biggest brand on earth is Supreme, and that's a
Yeah,
Barbara
totally.
Kruger, some vintage Barbara Kruger designs. So I bet most people, half the people who watch this, don't even know who Barbara Kruger is, and that was my message on Unfaded, is putting a light, shedding a light on these artists. Like, you know, everyone knows the heart shaped box tee, but you know who designed the heart shaped box tee?
No.
Not until you did our event.
Yeah,
Bill
exactly.
Tannis Root did. Not until you did
Not
our
till I
event.
had you on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So, and I think that it's an angle too, Drew, where if you are educated on that, it can help you sell your products better too and lead you to more sales in the future. So it's like, I don't know, education at this point and teaching people of the value of vintage is kind of
Yeah, and
where I'm going.
I think that's cool. I mean, I don't think it's for everyone, and I think, you know, you guys obviously had your creative differences there, but it's important to acknowledge those and stay true to what you believe. And if that's what you wanted to do, then there's lots of avenues where like that can be a future for you in a different way
Yeah.
potentially. And you know, I guess my next question would be about like the future of Faded, because I wonder, like, you were a big part of it. You were quite a face of it. Disorder is also like quite front facing on it, of course, with
Ryan.
Faded.
Yeah.
But I even think like you know, not to throw any shade or anything, but like from my just outside looking perception, you might have been even more of a face of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just the way it came across to me. So how do you like, what's the future for them? Do you even know? Like, were they like really bummed when you left, or how did that kind of play out?
There wasn't much conversation, but I think it's in the personalities of them. They're not very they're very, I would say, like chill, don't really speak their mind type of people like me. Everyone knows how I feel at all times, basically. Like, I'm a very outspoken person. They're not as outspoken as I am. So, not much, dude. I mean, Ryan and I had some rapport back and forth, with like, you know, he was sorry about it, and we still try to keep in touch where we can too, because I do, you know, a lot of my early times in this business or this industry, whatever, was due to him, man. He was a catalyst for getting me into it, so I am thankful for that. But just like anything, dude, you just grow, you slowly grow apart from people. You know, your vision is different than others. You've had this happen to you, man. I'm sure there's people that you've harnessed and grew with, and then they either went off and did their own thing, or you had to let them go because they were basically interrupting like your vision on it. So I think they were like slowly knew that I was done with it too, or our communication slowly but surely dipped over the last like 3 months. So I think they were, I think they had an idea it was coming. I just don't know if they knew it was coming then. And
And how
I'm
did it
not a
all play
person.
out? Because this is obviously a business, and you guys had like a business structure set up. You had to be like taking
Yeah.
money. You got sponsorship deals with Whatnot. There's Whatnot revenue coming in. Like, did you just take a walk? Did you just you're like, I'm out, I'm walking? That's it?
I physically took a walk too to reflect on it, and I came back and I wrote a letter of resignation. It was simple. Just said, I, Joe LaMonica, I forget what said, just the
Yeah.
basics. I'm on this date. I'm resigning from the company. I emailed it to him, and
But what about like the
that was it.
value that you guys created? Because you walked away from an asset, right? You walked away from
Yeah,
an asset that has a value now because you spent 2 years building.
yeah.
So essentially, you gave up your shares in
I'm
the
done.
asset.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
At the end of the day, too, the one thing that I'm not corruptible by money or any of those type of things. Like, if I want something, Drew, I will. I've said it before. I'll sleep on the street if I have to prove that, you know, like I won't sell out or do anything that's not for me for financial gain ever. And there's plenty of us out there for sure, but
Yeah.
you wouldn't still be,
Eh.
but yeah, but I don't think you'd still be digging through. I mean, dude, you're still,
No,
we're doing
I
live
definitely enjoy
auctions on
it.
Instagram. Yeah, you were doing live auctions on Instagram, and now you have a family to feed too. So it's a different avenue for you too. You have to take these type of things, but I feel like nothing that I've ever seen from you online or whatever is disingenuous. And when I meet you in person, I met your father. You remind me a lot of you and Jesse remind me a lot of him. Still
Well, I'm
full of
glad.
life and
Thank you
excited
for
for
that. It's a nice sentiment, and I appreciate that for sure.
it.
I
But
mean, I would have a hard time walking away from something. I'll tell you that I put 2 years into building.
it sucked.
And
It wasn't easy.
yeah, I bet it wasn't easy because it's a bit of a, it's just like any relationship. You get a
Yeah.
separation is hard. You have to go through like a somewhat of a grieving. You have to decide what's right for you. And then it changes your day to day. So then you free up all this mind space, and it's just like quite a transition. So, yeah. Any thoughts on that whole process for you?
Yeah, I mean the good part is my mind is so much freer now to do things that I'm super passionate about, which is now these restaurant concepts. And the cool part about where I'm at now, which we can talk about too, is I don't just think of I'm thinking of cool flavor combinations with food and in drinks, but I'm also thinking about trying to change the dynamic of why people drink in the first place, which is some esoteric crazy thing to say, but I've seen through market research over the last 10 years, the problems that America has with alcohol and their relationship with it. Like, it's not, binge drinking is at an all-time high in the world, and that to me is an issue because it kills my business because you either decide to never drink again, you know what I mean? Like, drink too
Yeah.
much and get my business potentially in trouble because you drank whatever, drove drunk or whatever, or you just never drink again, and then there goes a bar customer. So my idea now with restaurants is creating a healthy relationship with alcohol and kind of understanding that, do you, we can open this dialogue to ask, do you still drink at all or no?
I don't know. I go through stages. Like I'm almost like a year without drinking,
Okay.
but for the last like 5 years, I've been on and off probably.
Yeah. Do you think that your relationship with it is unhealthy? Is that why you stopped doing it? And you can be totally can't.
Yeah,
There's
my
no
personal
judgment here, man. Which is cool.
relationship and I'm a like quite an addictive personality, but I also have like a strong will, so I go in
I
hard,
love
but I can
that.
like stop it if I need to. But then that's a problem because I just go too hard when I'm
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't serving me at any point anymore. But but my family, you know, through like we grew up in wine country, so I'm like, I worked in a
Jealous,
winery
dude.
for a while, so I have a bit of a relationship with like
We got to talk
wine
about
and
this
the
next.
making of it, you know. So I can appreciate it because it's an art. It has a lot of history. There's a lot to it, and it can be appreciated for so much more than just getting drunk, of course. You know?
Exactly.
And that's kind of what you're speaking of.
Yeah, for me, cocktail making too is now explaining to people how lemon butter and capers can go with a pisco sour, which capers in a drink is the most bizarre thing, but I think I figured out how to make it work last week. So that, you know what I mean? That's
Nice.
where, you know what I'm saying? Like we do like this nuanced thing that people have been doing for a long time, but now it's really a bar in Barcelona just got the best bar in the world for doing this, basically, is trying to infuse things like, for instance, right now for us it's mezcal, Nutella butter, mushroom, and espresso beans. And I basically take those ingredients and we do what's called a fat wash with it, and I inject those into the mezcal. So when you drink it, similar to wine, like tannins and things that like why you worked in a winery, it'll stick on your tongue and create a full mouthfeel for you. So that's where drinking can be exciting and you savor it rather than just chugging it down your gullet as fast as humanly possible.
You're the cocktail sommelier, the mad scientist of the bar.
Yeah, you know what I hate though, and this is a PSA. I'm a fucking drink maker, not a mixologist. I think of a twisty mustache, a fucking leather apron, and acting like you're too good for everybody, which is something I saw. The anxieties of people walking into bars too, that are like a little more, their concepts a little more exciting, is that the bartender acts like they know more than them, and it's kind of intimidating to them. I'm trying to break down that barrier too of ask questions at my bar. I'm going to show you guys something, and I'll show you like this specific varietal of wine, and I'll explain to you why it pairs well with this food, how it's produced, why it's made. The educational aspects of it, I think, will open people's minds and have them trying things like lemon butter, caper, pisco. You know what I mean? Which to most people, even is
that's
weird.
awesome. So give us like the you probably talked about it on the last episode too, but sort of the rundown of your restaurant. Like it's a restaurant bar, but you're serving full menu dinners,
yeah.
Right?
So we would call ourselves an Italian-American restaurant. It moves in like a pyramid structure. So like my mother and father started this restaurant, and then 3 brothers. I have 4 brothers. One's kind of still in college doing his own thing. And then the 3 other brothers are the operational aspects of it. And one of my brothers does like the books, the back office stuff. Another one of my brothers is the food, focused. And I'm more of the cocktail director, like anything booze, wine, mocktails, all that shit is all handled by me. So it's a cool structure. No one really butts heads and overlaps in each one of the categories. So it works well. But
how's the restaurant doing? You guys busy?
Dude, a crazy first year, man. We exceeded expectations. Busy, especially for the area. So there's we started it it's Winthrop, Massachusetts, which is like a peninsula outside of Boston. So we've kind of became somewhat of a pseudo destination for people traveling from East Boston. And I mean, we have a good local clientele, but people actually do travel for the restaurant, and I'm trying desperately to make that a continual thing. Like, you're familiar with New England. We had this couple drive down an hour and a half from New Hampshire 2 weekends in a row to sit at the bar, which is like, to me, I just love that. Like, I love that you guys, there's so many restaurants probably around where you are. But
we got to go back to see that guy at that restaurant.
Yeah.
He sells T-shirts or something. What a character, man.
I know.
Let's go get drinks from that guy.
Yeah, I am, but I throw that in, dude, and that's important to me too in its own way, is that the drinks are supposed to inhibit that certain sort of nostalgia from you too. Like, you want to sip something and feel like You know, the best way to describe it is, you know, the movie Ratatouille. You know the movie
Yeah,
Ratatouille.
yeah, of course.
When he eats
I have
the
kids.
ratatouille. Yeah, you know, but there's a huge scene in that, and like from a culinary perspective, of when the food critic, who's super fucking pretentious and thinks he's better than everybody, eats that simple ratatouille, and it catapults him back to a point in his life when his mother made it for him when he was like 8 years old. And that's, for me, the objective of every single drink, is to catapult you back or to create a new experience for you that you didn't even know existed.
Yeah, and
know?
then can be a nostalgic thing for the future as well, that catapults you, that you want to have. No, I know exactly what you mean, because my family, I wouldn't say we were foodies, but like we enjoyed our food. We would go to like certain restaurants all the time. We had this restaurant in Buffalo, New York, which is also Italian, called Chef's, which is like super famous for this spaghetti parmesan dish. It's like like classic spaghetti marinara with a meatball, but like covered in mozzarella and parm, melted, all gooey. It's like this amazing thing. It's so simple, but you're like, nobody makes it like you do. It's so good, you know? So we had that. Jesse still goes there all the time because he's so nostalgic for it. He's so nostalgic for it. And now his kids will too, because he takes his kids. So it's like multi-generational nostalgia for this place. We had a Chinese restaurant like that in Toronto that we would go to all the time, and they closed like 10 years ago. We had to like grieve. We're still grieving, dude.
Heartbreaking,
because it was so nostalgic for us. There's lots of places like that, and also for like my mother's cooking. And so yeah, no, I totally get it, dude. And it is there's something about, like, a smell can take you there, you know, like lots of things can take you there, and it's important.
The big catalyst for leaving Faded, and also for getting as obsessed as I am, was I did go to Italy a month and a half ago, and that was 18 days in Italy changed my opinion on just how I view the world, even too. Seeing Naples, where it's this crowded, crazy drivers, everything's wild, but everyone is, and it's a poor city, but everyone is so high on life, and the food is so simply spectacular. Like, it's not anything beautiful and crazy and majestic, but everything is, they value food and drink so much more, and they also value each other's time so much more than Americans do. So, you know, the next time you go to Starbucks, maybe you should try try that small little artisanal coffee spot next to your house, where people actually give a shit about what they're putting into your cup too. Like,
yeah, no, I'm drinking Timmy's over here. It's so true. I think about this because I try to keep pretty healthy when I eat, right? And if you're grabbing food on the go, typically in Canada or America, like, you're grabbing junk for the most part, right? Unless you're hitting, like you said, like your local bakery spot, your local coffee shop where they're making their own food. We just have such processed food culture here, where, like, you're describing Italy, where it's like the ingredients are pure, man. I imagine, and it's like everything is so they take so much care in it, right?
It's important, dude. It'll change. It changes, you know, and that's where, to parallel into vintage, that's where you'll see vintage get. The more processed you guys want to be, and the more like fast and transient you want to be, the more it'll downturn, dude. You know, that's why they need you, Drew. They need these all-encompassing vintage. I'm serious. You know, you got to ingrain in the culture, in the head, that this is not a fad, dude. This isn't something that like should come and go. This is something that literally, you know, you should be passing down to your kids one day, because sustainability. Think of sustainability as the quality of clothing. It's just like food. The quality of clothing that was made pre-95 still holds up, because a lot of time it was made with better materials, handmade, whatever, better machines, any way it was made. Look at that like food. You know, food made by hand or in small batches is always going to have a higher quality. It's going to be better for you, and it's going to hold up. Your body's going to hold up longer. You know what I mean? I think you know, chemically, and
you'll feel it. Like, as you get older, I notice it more. If you eat like ingredients that are raw, true, organic, like good ingredient food versus like going and grabbing something while you're out, like fast food, or even most restaurants, even if they're not fast food, have a lot of crap ingredients. Your mental health is affected. Your mental health is affected big time. You wonder why you're depressed and bummed out. It's probably because you eat crap and you can't put it all together, and you're like paying all this money to a shrink. Why don't you just try cleaning up your diet first and see if that
Literally
makes a difference? Yeah.
A couple of, some yoga once in the morning, a couple times a week will probably help you too. That's the thing too. People, there's extremists too. People don't put some salt and pepper on your food. The sodium can be a little bit higher, and if the food tastes that much better, emotionally it'll do something to you too. Like sometimes your body's designed to want to savor and enjoy stuff as opposed to eating dry grilled chicken and fucking broccoli every single day of your life. Like you might be healthy,
that's like an old misnomer too of health. Like we need sodium. Your body needs sodium to retain water. So this whole like high sodium, it's maybe bad in fast food, but like you dousing your food in salt, like good salt, is not going to harm you. It's actually good for you. People, we have this twisted.
We have to educate, yeah. But it's education. It's explaining to people, like, same with like I was having a conversation with a wine rep the other day, and the cool part about even wine and vintage is like this too, is that people now are looking for more high quality wines. Like that whole idea of like $9 and below, the $9 wines. You can get a good cheap bottle of wine is kind of slowly phasing out. Younger kids are starting at like 15 and above for wine because they're more focused on, I think, the process of how it was made and the quality of it. And it's better sometimes it's good to buy that one garment that you're going to wear the hell out of, but is like made very well, than 75 garments that were made like shit that you'll just cycle through.
I'm a big proponent of that. And that's one reason it's good. Carhartt's kind of popular because those pants will last you a long time. But I buy Filson brand pants when I go buy new pants. They're really good, high quality, and they last me like, if I wear them almost every day for a whole year, I'm pretty good. Like maybe I'll get a full year of wear out of them. That's a lot, but, or you go buy a $40 pair of pants from some cheap company and you get like maybe 20 wears out of them and they're dead.
The ass is blown out, dude, or fucking, you rip the seam or whatever. It's like, why not just spend the extra money up front for longer term results? That's where I'm at right now.
It doesn't have to be like made from recycled material. Just buy really high quality stuff that will actually do more for sustainability than some recycled garment,
Yeah, I think about it too large scale. Like a lot of times people will be like, well, and I think this way and I have thought this way, still a little bit do, but Gucci produced this stuff and now they're throwing it all in landfills because no one bought that season or whatever. But if you look at the amount that they produced, it's still, and the quality of the products, it's still this compared to what H&M produces, which is like, how many more landfills are filled with piles and piles of fast fashion clothing as opposed to a couple of Gucci sweaters that they had to destroy because they didn't want it. They wanted to keep the market high or whatever. So those are still higher quality products that I think people should be buying too. Plus, I bought a Stone Island jacket in Italy, and I'm so obsessed with that company now. It's really.
Did you go to the Stone Island store there?
Yeah, I went to the Florence one. We did a lot of shopping in Milan too. It was kind of the only thing I really enjoyed about Milan, unfortunately. But
so tell me about that. Tell me about your take on fashion there. You spent 18 days there, you're cruising around, you're probably going to see the sights, you're going out to eat at great places. What did you notice about the difference in fashion in Italy?
They are functional, but they also are super, everybody is fashionable. The homeless guy's fashionable. You know what I mean? Like everybody puts a higher quality on how they look. You'd see minimal sweatpants and shorts and this whole like new craze that's hit recently where it's like too leisurely. Like I understand comfortability, but like with some sort of flair, like you said, you got your nice Filson pants, Drew, with your hoodie, secondhand hoodie, cool hat, whatever. But like this whole like, essential wear, fear of God wearing motherfuckers. Like there was none of that over there. A lot of suit, a lot of like European fashion. So there's a lot of suit jackets, ton of them, you know,
Yeah.
but in a tasteful way that weren't like some like douchey. They were like cool. You know what I mean? What else did I see? Yeah, I mean, for me, it was more food. Food was my focus out there, like over fashion. But
Yeah.
Milan shopping district makes Rodeo Drive look like a joke, dude. If you ever get a chance to go there, we were there during Fashion Week too, which was even crazier. Chloe
So
walked into,
as oh, go ahead.
yeah.
Keep going.
No. I was gonna say I knew something was up when Chloe walked. We went and walked into the Celine store, and they had like photographers snapping photos and shit. It was
She's like,
out there, dude. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it was awesome. So, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, back to food for a sec. So, uh, tell us like some of your memorable meals then when you were there.
Yeah, the best meal I had. We went back to this place twice. Was in Naples. It was outside by like not a shopping district, but there was like these lines and lines of people that had like the classic hand done knickknacks, like ceramics and all that stuff or whatever. So there was these four outside restaurants next to each other, and what you would almost look like street food, but it was a sit down restaurant just
Okay.
outside on like patios. So we Googled it and it had like a really high Yelp rating. And I usually don't give a shit about Yelp, but I'm like, you know what? This looks pretty cool. So we'll give it a shot. The meal cost me $50 for two glasses of wine, Amaros, 4 courses, bottles of water, and it was one of the most spectacular meals I've ever had in my entire life. I actually like told the chef, like I was like, can I meet the owner? Like, and the dude was like, oh, he's busy or whatever. But like I met the dude who made the pizza, like a Neapolitan pizza drew this big for €5. And it was
Wow.
insane. The quality of it was spectacular. And I know it would have been $22 at some fucking hipster artisanal spot that probably wasn't even as good, in America.
What is happening over here, dude? Like, I cannot go to like a regular restaurant.
It's scary, dude.
For under $100 with my family, and you're getting like 4-course meals in Italy for $50. What the fuck?
Well, I think the problem is they have more of a means to grow it. It's more locally sourced for them, so they do pose that advantage. And now with I don't know how the economy works, but it has to be something with all the tariffs and the fucking export fees, where a $2 literally I've seen a $2 bottle of wine there is a $13 to $15 bottle of wine here. You're like, really? Like this, you know what I mean? So it's crazy.
And overall, like, how did you find it for like the cost of traveling over there?
The only thing that's expensive, getting there, and no, we did B&Bs, so those weren't even that expensive, is staying there. Food and drink is the cheapest part of the whole experience. Like I had a glass of, you know what grappa is? Have you ever heard of grappa?
Yeah.
Okay, I had a what would be here a $40 glass of grappa in America cost me €14 there, so pro 16 bucks. $16. So the cool part is I got to experience things I think that would cost me like a $350 meal here only cost me like $100 there. So I got a chance to experience more things and more great food. And I actually ate at the only expensive meal we did was a tasting menu at the Gucci Osteria with this really world-renowned chef. His name is Massimo Bottura. So he's considered probably one of the most creative and innovative chefs of the last like 25 years. He's like a rock star in Italy. So we did like a tasting menu with that.
Is he like TV personality? I feel like I've heard that.
Super TV. He's like the cutest Irish man. He's tortellino, like he's like big glasses. He's really
I know this guy. Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. How was that meal?
It was wild, bro. We had the actual wine producer come in for a wine that I carry at the restaurant too. old guy in his 80s, gave a whole wine presentation. We saw the museum. We were in like this cocktail hour. Like the funny part about it is, dude, I'm far from have any real money, and I'm sitting next to like these these like crazy like people who I know are like way more like I'm the outsider is what I'm getting at in this group of people. But it kind of felt cool where I could be like, yeah, like I can drink with you people too, man. If I pay $350 for a fucking tasting menu. But it was really cool.
That's what, as a restaurateur, you got to do. You got to experience what else is out there. You got to bring back inspiration, right, for your own place and what you're doing.
We brought back the coolest drink that I've done as of late is a really high technical one. So we do. When I was in Florence, I saw David, the statue of David, Michelangelo's. It was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen, Drew. It was incredibly inspiring. But the tour guide said there was a book written about him in a movie called The Agony and the Ecstasy. And right away I go to Chloe, I'm like, Chloe, I need to name a drink that. Like, and I didn't have any idea what was going to go in it or whatever. So I started in reverse. Like I named the drink before I knew what the contents of the drink were. So we went backwards. But we do this thing called, do you know what Suntory whiskey is? It's a Japanese whiskey.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. If you ever watched Lost in Translation, he's there doing Suntory ads, like Bill Murray's in Tokyo doing ads for them or whatever. So we take Suntory whiskey, we infuse it with brown butter, so we create the savory element of it. We take the peels of oranges and create a syrup out of it. So it's almost like a simple syrup, orange simple syrup, fresh lemon juice. We crack an egg in it because it's a sour. And then I use this product called Demon Seed. So you familiar with Szechuan cooking?
Yep.
Like Chinese Szechuan cooking?
Yep.
You've probably eaten it in China. I'm sure you've been there before. But it has these like tingly elements, this whiskey. It's scorpion pepper ginger. It has this tingly element. So it's the idea of creating like this really savory thing and then making you kind of pay for it because you're going to get a little heat on the end. So it's like a full focus of your palate. And we float wine on it too, like Merlot. So the buoyancy of the sour, the viscosity of the sour is more than that of the Merlot. So it creates a line of actually the Merlot floats on top of it. So it looks really cool too.
When you make a sour, do you like whisk the egg with the whiskey? Yeah.
So what we do is you crack an egg. You do what's called a dry shake. But now I'm giving all the bartenders who already probably know this shit anyway. You know those frothers, those handheld frothers?
Yeah. You
can even do that too. Froth it up, and what that does is it puts air into the drink and creates like a frothy. It froths the egg up, and then you shake it over ice. And that's how you serve it too. And it's, I channel a lot of, I have love for this dude right now. His name's Grant Atkins. He's probably has one of the most famous restaurants in America called Alinea. So he studied in the French Laundry under a guy named, do you ever heard of the French Laundry in San Francisco? Thomas Keller. So he is like, he does this molecular gastronomy, and I'm nowhere near that, but I have like, such like a want to learn more of it. So it's like he does things like he creates something that looks like a tomato but it tastes like a strawberry, or he makes food float like a sour apple balloon. So he literally walks a balloon over to the table that's completely edible. Things like that are like, to me, like I think they like expand my mind and make me want to think of food not just as like Applebee's, they're bringing a steak to your table. How can I make food more meaningful for my guests, And it can be through flavors. It doesn't have to be through like floating stuff or now the cheap parlor tricks is like smoking every fucking alcohol on earth or whatever, because that's like a cool,
for sure.
Oh, those guns, man, that do the bubble smoke. They're like, that's another trend that you'll see go, But the coolest part
it always moves in waves, right? Whatever's the hot thing of the moment.
Yeah.
And the flavors have to go. You have to have a show with the flavors. It can't just be show, or it can't just be flavor. It's got to be like some sort of
It needs
match in the
substance.
middle, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I look at it like this. If I'm charging you $15 for a drink, Drew, I need to earn the $15. It's not something that, like, you know, I can't just justify charging you $15 for anything anymore. That's that Italian, learning how cheap things were in Italy for high quality. If I'm going to charge that type of money, there needs to be that type of quality in the drink, or it's not worth it. 1-2 comment too, I loved back about this Grant. I'm reading this dude Grant's book, and he talks about meeting this dude Thomas Keller for the first time, and at this point Thomas Keller had the #9 restaurant in the United States. He had no idea what the guy looked like, but he called him and asked him, you know, kind of pressed him for a job and the dude's like, yeah, come on and try out or whatever. So Grant gets to the restaurant, and he's like, where's Thomas? So I'm here to meet Thomas Keller. And one of the chefs like motions over to him, and the dude is mopping the floor. And to me, that put like chills up my spine, where you are the #9 chef in the United States, but you're still mopping your own floor and putting in the work to do that. That's why in a nutshell, I left Faded. I wasn't mopping the floors anymore. Like, I wasn't getting down and dirty and really trying to progress the industry anymore. I was just more just perpetuating this flow of things that I didn't really believe in. So that's where, you know, same with my restaurant, is I show up to the restaurant at 10 o'clock every day and I leave at 11. Drew, I mop my own floors, man. You know,
Yeah.
that's, you know, I can't expect I can't expect to, even as an owner, can't expect to be on this type of high pedestal if I didn't work to get there, type of thing. So
Yeah,
time to mop the floors.
That's something
people.
I love. I love about the restaurant industry. It's my upbringing. It's what I did until I did my own business, and I think there's so much value in it. There's so much hustle that you learn. There's the people skills you learn there. The work dynamic, the systems of like prep and then service, you know, like that whole like the build up and then the hustle. Like, there's a lot you learn from that. And I ask people this. I don't know if I talked about this in the last one, but if someone in an interview says like they come from a restaurant background, I'm like, yo, you know how to work hard. Like, you know what it's like when we get thrown the fire. You know how to handle that, right? Very valuable.
Yeah. No one really knows it unless they have. And the whole idea of like you screwing the server or whatever, I mean, you can do that if you want, but like I'm talking about like shitty tippers and stuff. But to understand if they are good at their job, how much effort and it goes into that, is you need to understand that it's not just, you know, it's dealing with the same annoying, like, customers are tough. People are tough. You know, you've worked in retail forever. It's not an easy business either. Like, you are dealing with different personalities every single day, trying to get them to understand your concept. And the fact that you could have left the extra $5 just to make the dude's day, and, you know, is it really important, type of thing. But I love that you find yourself hiring a lot of restaurant people, you said?
Yeah, well,
That's
it's definitely
pretty
an
cool.
asset if they have that history.
Yeah.
The tipping thing, you know, obviously, like I tip well for sit down service, right? Like, if I'm at a restaurant and I'm like, this is what's up, I tip well. It's gotten out of hand though, with like every business having a tip button on every little thing, dude. I'm like, God damn.
No. And this is where I will agree with you too, is fuck that shit, dude. You know what I mean? The dude who doesn't do anything, like, tipping is a service too, where the person isn't compensated. Like, servers make $4 an hour in Boston.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, hourly. So the tipping is just, you kind of measure that out. It factors into the wage. I've seen people sometimes like put a tip jar for, like, you know, you getting paid $20, $18 an hour to make my coffee. If you weren't super friendly and made my day better, then I'm not why am I tipping you? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and kind of like if I'm going to sit down in the coffee shop, then I guess that's different too. But yesterday I was at a coffee shop and I got my coffees, I tipped, I think, on the machine for that, and then I went. I was like, shit, I forgot to get a bottle of water, so I went back and tipped, and they had like a $1 button, and without even thinking, I hit the $1. So I'm like, I just tipped the guy $1 for grabbing a bottle of water out of the case for me. And I was like, fuck, and that just got me because I didn't even like think about it. But I just think they're on everything. Like even stores that have nothing to do with food or service now have them on their things, and you're like,
it's ridiculous. It's a money grab. First of all, tipping is something that you get rewarded for doing exemplary service. It's not something you should expect. So the idea right now, if you have a really rude, shitty waiter and and you leave them 18% or under 20%, I can respect you for that too. Like I'm not going to be this one where like just because you say hi to a table, you automatically deserve 20%. That's another concept that I feel like people has gotten overblown. Like, make sure you tip your waiters all the time. It's like, what if the dude like was super rude and it took him 4 hours to get my drink, or he's texting on his phone? Clearly, I can see him from across the fucking restaurant texting on his phone while I'm sitting here with a dirty table. That's a truly now American thing, whereas like people just expect the money. They just expect it to come. Like they don't want to work for it anymore.
There needs to
they
be
just
a
expect
level
it
of
to
service
show
for sure.
Of accountability.
People love to talk about this too. Like it's kind of similar with the thrift stores, Value Village and Savers and Salvation Army, asking for donations after your purchase, so you can like.
And you're like, what?
You're like, come on, like the money that I'm paying for the clothes is supposed to be what supports your programs. Why am I now having to give you more money to support your program? Because your whole MO is the thing that I'm buying is supporting the program because you're a nonprofit organization.
And where's it going? If I know exactly where it's going, Drew, I'm cool with it. If I don't, then, I'm good. The whole idea too, and I thought I was against it, but I'm super into it, of this whole 2% of the tip goes to the kitchen. I'm fucking down, man. I see what these kitchen dudes do. I prep my own like stuff now for the bar every day. Like a lot of my day is before shift is prep, like syrups and all that stuff. I see how hard these kids work, and I see how much they make more than compared to some of these service people for these not my service staff, but like these bratty kids. I want to be an actor, so I'm serving, I'm making $1,000 a shift, while this dude who did most of the work to prepare the things that I'm selling is getting paid a quarter of that.
I agree with that split,
it's like
100%.
It's so insane. It's like these dudes are sweating, burning themselves, blah, blah, blah. And you're a fucking server that isn't even educated about the product you're selling. You don't even know what Pinot Noir is, and I'm going to pay you $1,000, and then I'm going to pay this guy friggin' $200. Like, there's a huge disparity there, dude. It's I don't, and that's coming from someone who was always at the front of the house. I've never really had a back of the house gig. So I mean, someone's got to stand up for these dudes and realize how much work they're putting in behind the scenes to make this shit happen. The dishwasher gets paid the least. Drew, the one who has the hardest job gets paid the least amount of money for it. The one who has the easiest job,
it's true. But I agree with it in a way of like climbing the ladder. See, that's another good thing about restaurants is that it creates a clear ladder structure of where you're going. Your dishwasher, you're maybe a prep cook, then you're like a line cook, then you're like a head chef maybe one day, and you get like it's like you can see that pathway, right? Mm-hmm. And you're working towards that. Where, well, first of all, most people don't have fucking patience anymore to do that, right? Where like you got to work your way up.
It's tough to find people now too. We can talk about that after.
So I see it as a very clear dynamic, and it is a first good. These are stepping stone jobs, and you got to work your way up. You got to put in the time. You got to do good work. And a lot of different type businesses don't have that. Like retail. You can to a degree, like you're going to be retail. Maybe you work up to like a merchandiser, then you work up to like a manager. So it has that to a degree, but I think like there should be a split, but it also that ladder has to remain there because you gotta You got to put in your
Yeah.
due, right?
Oh no, I'm with that too. But nothing's worse than a 22-year-old brat who's like, whether it's a male or a female, who's super attractive and thinks they're just going to come in here and make $1,000 a shift for doing nothing is infuriating.
Yeah,
Like it
totally,
boils my
totally.
blood when the dude who traveled from Guatemala, 3,000 miles through the fucking desert is making a 15th of what you're making. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And the unappreciative servers that like are dickheads to the dishwashers and the back of house, and you're like, come on, like you're making all this cake and you're just being a dick. And
But that's the entitlement thing, dude, which a lot of people have. And it's like, I don't talk to privilege, like, in a way a lot, but it is a privilege. Like you have an entitlement to think that you're above this person where you're not, dude. You know what I mean? If anything, their drive and perseverance is leaps and bounds ahead of yours. You're mad that you're not an artist out of college where you're bullshitting around going to clubs all the time. Well, this person worked relentlessly to support their family for the last 5 years. So you're the same age, but there's been a lot more, a lot bigger disparity in who did what and who works harder. So
totally.
I want to do my
talk about staff. Like, how do you guys go about getting good people at your spot?
We were lucky, but a lot of our staff was curated basically over a long period of time. It's people that I've worked with in my past that knew we were opening the restaurant and wanted to be a part of it. So that was really cool. Front and back.
Have you had much turnover for the first year?
Almost none.
No way.
Which is spectacular. Yeah, in a way. But it's also though about creating like a community within the workspace too, of the idea of like being respectful, them being compensated correctly for their work, and doing my best to promote the restaurant, to put seats in put people in the seats. Like that's our biggest goal right now. And we had a really amazing first year, so a lot of people stuck around, and I hope that they continue to stick around. But if opportunities come where life change, we have people too that this is their second job. A couple of these kids are like real estate people too, so this is great for them because they can do all their showings at night. They can work at on the day they can do all their restaurant stuff at night. If they become a full-time real estate person and make a ton of money doing that, and that's what they want to do with their life, it's time. It creates a problem because I have to scramble to find somebody new, but
that's how it goes.
It's all about
totally.
It's all about the right people. It's the right people, and you know this because your brand is predicated on it. If you have a shitty salesperson or a rude person, that's a reflection of you sometime. That's a reflection of you, no matter if you were there doing it or whatever. So being very cautious about who you hire is an important thing for businesses. And that's where I'm seeing America specifically is struggling with this significantly. Like they have I want to go home and be an influencer instead of work here. It's like, okay, that's a noble profession, taking pictures of your feet for people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even want to like down that shit, but it's just, for me, it's not, I think I don't know how sustainable it is over a long period of time.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, man. It all plays in together why we are where we're at in society in North America.
Yeah.
Back to like you being able to go buy a meal for $50 in Italy, and here we are. Inflation's out of control. Cost of living's nuts. Like you can't, people are crying the blues about being able to find workers, and we definitely
it's
have
a thing
our own
that's
set
changed.
of issues here. Yeah.
That was the craziest part about Italy, Drew, is these people were like mid-30s, 40s, and they were career restaurant people. Like they enjoyed their jobs. They went, they were like, they worked at a restaurant. That was their gig. Restaurant wasn't a secondary thing to them. It was their their main source of income. So that's where I gotta keep sweeping my floors. So hopefully there'll be more than one of these restaurants with our names on it,
Hell yeah.
Sooner than later. So
let's talk back to now that you've left Faded. Obviously you're still in the scene. Now, what's next for you as far as vintage clothing?
Well, you're going to see it. I hope this airs before it happens, but I just had a really good conversation with a person I respect a lot, and I'm hoping to help them do what I can, fit my piece of the puzzle into them to help them expand their business a little bit further. So it's not a small convention. That's your hints, right? Right there. So but this is a person that I respect a lot, and I want to see him succeed, because every time that I've interacted with him in person or through any sort of medium, he is a very hardworking, driven dude. So I'm really excited to hopefully see where I fit in with this. I like being a free agent, Drew. It's exciting. I don't have to be super committed yet to anything. I can give my commentaries, my ideas, and then I can walk away and move on to the next thing.
It doesn't happen a lot in life where you sort of end one thing and start a new thing. I mean, it happens, but it's quite freeing to be able to be like, I've relinquished that responsibility for such a big thing, right?
Yeah. Put it this way, dude. I can't walk away from this ever, because vintage basically, it's just like such a fucking stupid thing to say, but it's true, saved my life in a lot of ways. 3 years ago, I was at one of the darkest points in my life with depression and stuff, and where I am right now, a lot of my relationship with Chloe is a huge catalyst for this too, but where I am right now, vintage was a pivotal part of like helping my mental health, making me feel part of something, and I couldn't turn my back on that if I tried. I'll always love secondhand clothing, and the people that I met in this scene, I consider friends and people that I want to keep in contact with as long as I possibly can. So I can't, just because you don't see me on the Faded shows anymore doesn't mean it was cool. A lot of people reached out to me and were like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I responded to most of them. I'm still around, man. So, DM's still open, dude. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. If anything, I'm channeling better things.
Was there an announcement made through the lives that you're not going to be on there anymore or anything like that?
The saddest part is I don't think so. I think I made an announcement, and I had the DM. My inbox was like insane. I was like, holy shit, yeah. Chloe, look at that. I'm like, look at this shit. So I tried my best to respond to everybody that said, their piece to me or whatever. But no, I don't think so. That was, it's, hey man, you live, you learn, you figure out what works for you. And there's a lot of things that I think I want to see the scene grow, Drew, and it is. And I want to fit where I can fit to be a catalyst for that growing in the future.
Awesome.
That's my main goal in life.
Well, I think we're going to end it there, my man. Thank you for coming on again, and thank you for sort of
so many
your
things.
Story.
Oh, yeah. Dude, it's amazing. Thank you for having me back. Like I said, we could talk till we're blue in the face, but you got a new shop to build, brother.
I'm about to go, dude. I got my Carhartts on. I'm going building right now. I got my overalls. And,
I want to thank you too, Drew, through all that, for taking this time to chat too, man. I know you're
of course,
busy,
man. No,
dude,
I appreciate it. Thanks for thanks for sharing the story. I love talking shop. I wish you all the best in the future. I'm excited for when you make some announcements of your next steps here. We talk a little off camera, and I'm excited for you. I'm also a big fan of who you're speaking of, so
we'll see what happens.
Fun. Yeah, it should be fun.
We'll see you soon, man.
All right. Thanks, brother.
Okay, guys, over and out. Thank you for tuning in. And again, if you want to 100 times your money, go jump on the podcast Patreon, and you will, with the knowledge, you will acquire 100x your $5 investment, guaranteed. Or I'll give you your $5 back. You can cancel your $5. So, yeah, there you have it. The Drew Heifetz 100 times your money guarantee. Let's go, baby. Jump on there. And Joe, thanks for coming on. See you guys all in the next one. Stoked. Lots of great guests coming out. I'm opening a store right now, guys. It's taken up a lot of energy. So, you know, been a bit slower than normal, but I will be back. Amy's going to jump on here for some business chats. I'll be back soon enough with lots of guests once the store's open and tell you all about how we did it. Maybe I'll get Jesse on an episode, actually. I'll get Jesse on an episode. He's going to be here this week, so maybe he'll be the next guest. And lots more stuff coming. And thank you all. Appreciate you. Love you.